Key point 1. If you aim for a win-win, you always lose big. How often have you heard the phrase win-win? Perhaps you've heard someone say they're in a win-win situation and can't lose. The truth is, if you assume something is win-win, you're always losing somewhere along the line. The best negotiators don't give an inch. They don't look to provide the other person the best side of the deal or even any side of it. They work to get the best side of it themselves. It may sound harsh and even cutthroat, but that's the way quality negotiation works. You're not there to be liked. You're only there to be respected and to succeed. Jim Camp argues that throughout his career, he's never seen anyone aim for a win-win and get the best deal. Instead, Camp believes that the only way to negotiate to success is to start by saying one word: no. Most people don't like saying no. We're programmed to believe that we should always be amiable and do what we can. If you aim for a win-win situation, you're just trying to get to the end of the negotiation as quickly as you can. You're agreeing. You're not negotiating. Instead, the other person is persuading you to do what they want, and you miss out. Your negotiation efforts have simply failed. Most people rely far too heavily on their emotions to make decisions, allowing those emotions to control their actions. A good negotiator knows to keep their feelings away from the bargaining table. During Jim Camp's time in the Air Force, he learned that he could never control what his enemy would do, but he could control how he would react to it. He realized he could plan, research, and give himself the most knowledge possible to try and second-guess his enemy. Then he could make accurate and careful decisions. This is an excellent example of controlling a situation by keeping your emotions to one side. In this summary, you will learn how to become a better negotiator by focusing on the things you can control and not paying too much attention to the things you can't. It's not the most straightforward task to learn, but it can be done. Are you up to the mark? Key point 2. Needy people don't get what they want. Anyone inexperienced in negotiations will no doubt show a tiny slither of desperation. They're so keen to succeed and get precisely what they're aiming toward. They'll demonstrate just a small amount of neediness to the person they're negotiating with. People with more experience will quickly notice this and turn the situation around to their advantage. The first thing you need to learn about negotiation is that you cannot show even a tiny amount of neediness to the person opposite you. It's human nature to use the disadvantages of others to our own benefit. If you show the other person you need something, they'll use that to get what they want, leaving you short. A top negotiator is always looking for signs of neediness or upset. You can compare this to a predator in the jungle seeking its prey. They don't try to be nice or give their prey a head start. They jump straight in and do what needs to be done. You must know the difference between need and want. You want the deal. You don't necessarily need it. If you believe you do, you will show that in your behavior, and your emotions will bubble up to the surface. At that point, you've lost control, and the deal is dead in the water for you. More bad deals are signed and more sales are lost because of neediness than because of any other single factor. Jim Camp. Sales companies often use this tactic to get customers to buy their products. They make a person believe that they need the product, otherwise their life is going to be somehow worse off. The person falls for the trick and then starts asking questions, showing they're vulnerable to heavy sales tactics. An experienced salesperson then swoops in and makes the sale. Never show that you need a negotiation to go your way. You want it to. They know that, and you do too, but nothing will end if you don't get it. It's essential to have that shoulder-shrugging attitude in any negotiation endeavor. You shouldn't care about rejection or not being liked around the negotiation table. You're not there to be anyone's friend. Key point 3. Work with your emotions, but do not allow them to cloud your decisions. We all have emotions. They're a massive part of being human. Learning to rein in the intensity of your emotions is possible, but you can never completely control them. What you can do, however, is learn how to stop them from pushing you toward decisions you will later regret. For instance, you have no power over someone making you angry. You will get angry if someone is very rude to you or a family member. What you can control, however, is your actions. You can avoid screaming at the other person or hitting them by learning habits to help you deal with situations like this. For instance, you can walk away and calm down. A considerable part of negotiation is emotion-based, but it shouldn't push you to take rash actions. We all have intuition, a gut feeling we get whenever we're excited or unsure about something. We listen to that feeling because going against it leaves us feeling uneasy. However, Jim Camp argues that while your gut feeling informs your decisions, it doesn't make them for you. As a top negotiator, you need to see your emotions clearly and allow yourself to step away from them before making a choice. By saying no at the start, you're showing the other person that you mean business. You're not someone who is going to agree to anything. You put the ball firmly back in their court. Now it's up to them to take things up a notch and start a real conversation. If you say yes immediately, the conversation is over before it's even begun. Remember that it is your right to say no, regardless of how uncomfortable it may feel at first. By allowing any emotion or feeling of sympathy toward the other person to creep in, you're responsible for a poor decision. If anything happens in the future that makes the deal fall apart, it's partly your fault. Part of controlling your emotions when making decisions comes from having a clear mission and identifying your overall purpose. This will give you clarity whenever things become a little cloudy during negotiations. If you doubt any choice you're about to make, simply ask whether it aligns with your mission and your overall purpose. I teach and I preach that mission and purpose is the very essence of success. It must become as automatic as breathing. Jim Camp. Key point 4. The outcome of negotiation cannot be controlled. You have an aim, a purpose, and you know what you want. However, you cannot wholly assume that you'll get everything you want in a deal. The reason is that you can't control the other person's reactions and decisions. You can only control your own. It's easy to become extremely stressed in a negotiation because things may not go your way, but that will not help you. The other person will sense your distress and will pounce on that. You're making yourself vulnerable. Instead, you need to focus on developing habits that allow you to turn the other cheek or sidestep something that could otherwise cause your emotions to rise. We all have habits that allow us to be successful in life, but we have habits that cause us to lose out too. It's essential to identify these and work on them. You can easily control not getting a good deal because you simply say no, but you can't force a person to give you everything or act in a certain way. So set goals that allow you to behave however you want, and then stick to them. Focus on controlling everything in your power. Everything else should be forgotten. You cannot push a person to agree with you, and you can't force them to sign on the dotted line. By trying to do this, you're setting an unrealistic goal that will tie you up in knots. This is a prevalent mistake people make when they're new to negotiation. Jim Camp suggests keeping a habit diary. Try to identify the things you do regularly and the types of behaviors you exhibit frequently. You might not be aware of how you act in a particular situation, but a diary can help you see these habits and undo them or work to use the positive ones more. By doing this, you don't focus on the final outcome. You focus on how you behave. That's the only thing that's entirely in your control. Key point 5. Do your homework on every person or company you negotiate with. Going into a negotiation blind, without any information about the person or company you're sitting across from, is a huge mistake. Don't assume they won't have done much research on you, because if they're experienced in negotiation, they will have spent significant time learning about and understanding your company or situation. Assumptions are the death of every negotiation, whether you have great intentions or not. You can have the best mission and a great purpose, but if you don't do your homework, you'll miss out on crucial information you could use to move closer to your goal. Clearing your mind of assumptions is therefore essential. The way to do that is to sit down and search the internet for as much information as possible. Japanese businesses are known for their negotiation skills, and many large companies have dedicated departments for research such as this. While you don't have to learn everything about the company, you should pull out any pieces of information that seem pertinent to the deal you're trying to do and the background behind it. Why do they want this deal? What could they try to get from it? Don't assume, find out for sure. Another critical skill is to take notes during your negotiation. It's very easy to forget something afterward, and remember that you're not going to reach a final decision around that negotiation table. You're there to gain information and think about it before making a final decision. Your notes will help you remember the discussion and pull out small details you may want to discuss again. Taking a moment to listen helps you to calm your emotions and avoid saying something you may later regret. You're also focusing your mind and calming your emotions by taking notes. There are vital points Jim Camp insists every negotiator should do. Most people don't know how to listen correctly and only hear what they want to hear. This could be a massive disadvantage in your negotiation if you miss something which later turns out to be vital. If you don't find it easy to take notes generally, start practicing. This will help you build another useful habit to use in negotiations and everyday situations. Key point 6. Identify their pain and use it to your advantage. When you go into a negotiation session, both you and the person you're negotiating with have an idea of what you want. They will also have a mission and clear purpose plan, but you will be focused on a different outcome. Behind that purpose and mission is usually some kind of driving force. Jim Camp calls it a pain. This isn't a pain as in a physical signal. It's something that pushes a person or a company to want something, usually to solve a problem. A good negotiator knows how to understand that pain and then use it to try and turn the deal around to their benefit. You probably also have a driving force or pain behind your desire to reach a specific outcome. However, you should never allow the person you're negotiating with to know what that pain is. Just as you're trying to understand their pain, they're trying to work out what yours is too. You'll stay on target by having a clear understanding of why the other person wants a specific outcome. Jim Camp suggests that, before you even attempt negotiating with a person or company, get to know their why. It can be very obvious sometimes, but other times you may need to delve into their background a little. Again, the online world can be very beneficial here. To try and push the other person to reveal their so-called pain, you need to make them feel like they're in a safe space. A good negotiator is tough and unbudging, but they can also show their human side. That doesn't mean they're going to give up what they want, but it does mean they can try and show empathy to the other person to get them to open up. Jim Camp suggests using phrases like, "How can I help you here?" to take the heat out of the situation and show that you want to help them get a good outcome. You don't really, but you shouldn't show them that. You could also say something like, "The situation is like this, but the upside is that," to put a positive spin on things. Did you know? Former FBI hostage negotiator Christopher Voss is considered one of the best negotiators, having worked on more than 150 cases. Conclusion. The world's best negotiators may seem cold and unflinching, but the truth is that they simply understand how to control their emotions at that moment. They've learned habits that allow them to sidestep making errors through neediness or heightened emotion. All of this takes time to learn, but it's something that is entirely within your reach. You don't need to be negotiating a big money deal to use the advice in Start with No. You can use it in any small negotiation you have in your everyday life. For instance, perhaps you're trying to buy a sofa from a furniture store, but the one you want is on display, and you believe you should have a discount because of that. You can use all of this advice to help you achieve your aim and get that sofa you want. Emotions are part of life for humans. We can't stop ourselves from feeling a certain way. We feel it because we're reacting to something that's happened or a thought we've had. However, you can stop yourself from doing or saying something that could be detrimental later on. You shouldn't ignore your gut feeling, but you shouldn't allow it to make your decisions for you. Use what it's telling you and mix it in with the facts. What outcome can you reach that helps you feel settled in your gut and makes sense in your mind? For people who are going to be negotiating in the business world, it's important to remember that you do not have to be liked. You shouldn't want to be. You should be seen as someone who is unflinching but fair, respected, and professional. If you can do that, you'll have the upper hand before you even walk into the negotiating room. Try this. Start a daily journal and note down your regular habits and behaviors. Are there any you need to work on? Whatever deal you're trying to negotiate, spend a significant amount of time researching. With knowledge comes power. Start becoming more comfortable with saying no. You don't have to agree to everything all the time.